There comes a moment in a person's life when a quiet realization rises within the mind, one that changes everything. It is the moment you understand that not every voice deserves your answer, not every judgment deserves your defense, and not every misunderstanding must be corrected. For so long, many people live as if their worth must be proven to the world. They explain their choices, justify their dreams, defend their paths, and seek approval from those who neither walk beside them nor carry their burdens. Words are spent like coins tossed into the wind, hoping someone will return them with understanding, yet most of the time they are lost. But something remarkable happens when a person decides to stop. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in quiet strength. Because the moment you stop explaining yourself to those who are determined not to understand, you reclaim a powerful thing, your peace. You begin to realize that your life is not a courtroom, where every decision requires a defense. Your purpose is not a debate to be argued before an endless audience. The path you walk is yours alone, shaped by your values, your discipline, and the quiet voice of reason within you. And the world changes the moment you understand this truth. When you stop explaining yourself, your energy returns to you. The restless need for validation fades. The noise of outside opinions grows distant. In its place appears something far stronger: clarity. Clarity about who you are, clarity about what truly matters, clarity about the direction your life must take. And with that clarity comes a different kind of power, a calm presence. You no longer rush to correct every false assumption. You no longer bend yourself to fit the expectations of those who do not carry your responsibilities or understand your battles. Instead, you act according to reason, guided by principle rather than applause. Some people will misunderstand you. Let them. Some will question your choices. Let them. Some will speak as though they know your story. Let them, because the strongest individuals do not spend their lives explaining their character. They demonstrate it through their actions. A steady mind, a disciplined heart, a life lived with intention. These things speak louder than any defense ever could. And so the question becomes simple yet profound. What might happen if you stopped trying to convince the world of who you are, and instead simply lived as that person? Because when you reach that moment, when your actions replace your explanations, everything begins to change. There is a quiet burden many people carry without even realizing it. It is the constant need to explain themselves, to clarify every decision, defend every choice, and justify every step they take in life. At first, it seems harmless, even responsible. After all, we are taught from a young age to be understood, to prove that our actions make sense, to make sure others approve of the direction we choose. But over time, this habit slowly becomes a weight that follows us everywhere. Think about how often people feel the urge to explain why they chose a certain path, why they said no to something, or why they believe what they believe. It happens in conversations with friends, with family, with co-workers, and even with strangers whose opinions should not carry such influence. A simple decision suddenly becomes a long explanation. A personal boundary becomes something that must be defended as if standing before a judge. What is often hidden beneath this behavior is the quiet desire for approval. People hope that if they explain themselves clearly enough, others will finally nod in agreement. They hope that the right words will erase doubt, prevent criticism, and secure acceptance. But the truth is that approval from others is rarely as stable as we imagine. It changes with moods, opinions, and circumstances. What satisfies one person may disappoint another. Because of this, the search for approval can quietly drain a person's energy. Each explanation becomes another attempt to control how others see you. Each defense becomes another moment where your peace depends on someone else's understanding. And when that understanding does not come, frustration grows. You begin to feel as if you must work harder, speak more clearly, explain more deeply, yet the result often remains the same. The mind becomes restless in this cycle. Instead of moving forward with confidence, it constantly looks outward, measuring itself against the reactions of others. Decisions are no longer guided purely by reason or inner conviction, but by how they might be judged. Even moments of silence can feel uncomfortable, as though failing to explain means losing control of your own story. But the deeper truth is that not everyone listens with the intention to understand. Some listen only to respond, to criticize, or to confirm what they already believe. In those moments, explanations do not bring clarity. They simply feed the endless noise of opinion that surrounds every human life. There is a quiet strength that begins to emerge the moment a person loosens their grip on the need to justify their existence. For many people, life becomes an endless conversation with the world, as if every decision must be explained in order to be accepted. They speak carefully, choosing words that might soften judgment or avoid disagreement. They try to make their choices understandable to everyone around them. Yet the more they attempt to explain, the more they feel the invisible pressure of other people's expectations. It is a strange habit of the human mind to believe that clarity in words will always lead to understanding. A person assumes that if they simply explain their reasons well enough, others will see things the same way. But people do not always listen with open minds. Often, they listen through the narrow lens of their own experiences, their own fears, and their own beliefs. What is clear to you may remain confusing to them, no matter how carefully you describe it. This is where the quiet power of restraint begins to appear. When a person stops feeling the need to defend every step they take, something inside them becomes lighter. The endless conversation with the outside world begins to fade. There is less urgency to correct every misunderstanding, less pressure to make sure every person agrees with your reasoning. Instead of chasing approval, the mind slowly turns inward. It begins to ask a different question, not "do they understand me?" but "do I understand myself?" That shift may seem small, yet it changes everything about how a person moves through the world. When your actions are guided by clear principles rather than the hope of validation, you no longer need constant explanations. Your choices come from a place that is steady and deliberate. You know why you have chosen a certain path, even if others cannot see it yet. And that quiet certainty begins to show itself not through speeches or debates, but through the way you live. A person who no longer feels the urge to justify every action begins to move with calm purpose. They speak when words are useful and remain silent when they are not. They stop treating their life as a story that must be approved by an audience. Instead, they treat it as something that must be lived with integrity. In that silence, something powerful grows, a sense of independence that does not rely on agreement, a calm confidence that does not demand recognition, and a steady presence that no longer needs the permission of others to exist as it truly is. There comes a time in life when a person begins to see something that was once invisible to them. Not every question deserves an answer, and not every person deserves an explanation. In the earlier years of life, many people feel responsible for making sure they are understood by everyone around them. If someone doubts their choices, they rush to clarify. If someone questions their motives, they feel compelled to defend them. It becomes almost instinctive, as if silence would mean surrendering control over how others perceive them. But experience has a way of revealing a deeper truth. The world is full of voices, and many of them speak without truly listening. Some people ask questions not because they seek understanding, but because they wish to challenge, criticize, or impose their own beliefs. Others form opinions long before hearing the full story. In such moments, explanations rarely serve their intended purpose. Words are offered in good faith, yet they fall on minds that have already decided what they believe. This realization can be uncomfortable at first. It feels strange to resist the urge to clarify yourself. The mind may worry that silence will create misunderstandings, or that others will assume things that are not true. Yet with time, a person begins to see that understanding cannot be forced. It must arise naturally in those who are willing to see beyond their assumptions. Recognizing that not everyone deserves an explanation does not come from arrogance or pride. It comes from wisdom gained through observation. You begin to notice that some people respect your boundaries, listen with patience, and seek genuine clarity. With them, conversation feels balanced and meaningful. Words are exchanged not as weapons or defenses, but as tools for mutual understanding. But there are also those who treat every explanation as an opportunity to argue or diminish. No matter how calmly you speak or how clearly you describe your reasons, they continue to twist your words to fit their own narrative. In these moments, continuing the conversation becomes less about communication and more about exhaustion. The wise mind learns to distinguish between these two kinds of people. It understands that time and energy are precious resources, not to be scattered in every direction. Some conversations are worth having, while others simply circle endlessly without reaching clarity, and so a quiet discipline develops. You listen more carefully before you speak. You observe intentions rather than just words. And when you sense that understanding is not the goal of the conversation, you allow yourself the freedom to step away from the need to explain at all. There is a certain strength that does not appear in loud voices or long explanations. It grows quietly within a person who has taken the time to understand themselves. When someone reaches this point, they begin to realize that self-respect is not something that needs constant defense. It is something that is built from within, through reflection, discipline, and a clear understanding of one's own values. Many people spend years trying to shape their lives according to what others expect. They watch how people react, they listen to opinions, and slowly they begin to adjust themselves so that they appear acceptable in the eyes of the world. At first, this may seem practical. After all, humans naturally seek connection and belonging. But when the desire to be accepted becomes stronger than the desire to live honestly, a quiet conflict begins inside the mind. This conflict often shows itself in small moments. A person hesitates before speaking their true opinion. They second-guess their decisions even after carefully thinking them through. They feel the urge to explain themselves repeatedly, hoping that others will finally recognize that their choices are reasonable. Over time, this constant adjustment can weaken a person's sense of direction. Inner clarity begins to restore that direction. It comes when a person pauses long enough to examine their own principles. They ask themselves what truly matters, what kind of character they wish to develop, and what standards they choose to live by. These questions are not answered quickly. They require patience, honesty, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths about oneself. But once those answers begin to take shape, something remarkable happens. A person who understands their values no longer feels the same pressure to seek approval. Their decisions are not guided by shifting opinions, but by a steady internal compass. When they choose a path, they do so because it aligns with what they believe is right, not because it will be easily accepted by everyone around them. Self-respect grows stronger with each action that reflects those principles. It becomes visible in the calm way a person carries themselves, in the discipline they apply to their responsibilities, and in the consistency between what they believe and how they live. Others may question them or misunderstand their intentions, but those reactions no longer shake their foundation. Instead of reacting to every judgment, the mind remains steady. There is less urgency to prove anything, because the most important approval, the approval of one's own conscience, has already been earned through thoughtful reflection and deliberate action. There is a quiet transformation that begins when a person no longer feels compelled to defend every part of their life with words. For many years, people become accustomed to responding immediately whenever they feel questioned or misunderstood. Someone challenges a decision, and the instinct is to explain it. Someone doubts a motive, and the reaction is to clarify it. This habit can become so automatic that silence begins to feel uncomfortable, almost as if it means surrendering control over how others see you. But there is another path, one that requires patience and a different kind of confidence. It begins when a person realizes that actions often speak with far greater clarity than explanations ever could. Words can be debated, misunderstood, or twisted to fit someone else's opinion. Actions, however, reveal character in a way that cannot easily be dismissed. When silence replaces the urge to defend yourself, the energy that once fueled endless explanations begins to return to you. Instead of preparing arguments in your mind or rehearsing how to justify your choices, your attention shifts toward living according to your principles. Your focus becomes less about persuading others and more about ensuring that your behavior reflects the values you claim to hold. At first, this shift may feel unfamiliar. People around you might expect the same explanations they have always received. When they question your decisions and you respond with calm, restraint instead of lengthy defenses, it may surprise them. Some may even interpret your silence as indifference or stubbornness. Yet over time, something interesting begins to happen. Your consistency becomes visible. Instead of hearing your intentions in words, people begin to see them in the way you act day after day. They observe the discipline you maintain in your work, the respect you show to others, and the steadiness with which you handle challenges. These patterns slowly form a clearer picture of who you are than any explanation ever could. Silence, when guided by wisdom rather than avoidance, becomes a powerful form of communication. It allows space for actions to carry meaning. It prevents unnecessary conflict that often arises from endless arguments. It also teaches patience, because it reminds you that not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected immediately. Through this process, life becomes less about managing perceptions and more about living with integrity. The mind becomes calmer, the path forward becomes clearer, and the need to constantly justify your existence begins to fade into the background of a life guided by steady action.